Oh honey, there I sat alone in the dim glow of my laptop screen, the cursor blinking insistent like a heartbeat I couldn't quiet, scrolling through her socials where that baby bump, swelled round and glowing in filtered sunlight, her hand cradling it soft as a promise, his arm wrapped proud around her waist in the comments flood of hearts and congrats. Our marriage had frayed slow, dinners cooling untouched on plates that clattered cold between us, until he packed his bags with a murmur of she needs me now, leaving me to the apartment's hush where the fridge hummed lonely and the bed sagged empty. But one late-night scroll cracked it all. The bump a pillow prop just so, staged for sympathy and photos time-stamped to empty afternoons. Lies inflate like that, child, but truth deflates them swift, leaving you to sift the air for breath anew. That moment, with tears hot on my cheeks and screenshots burning in my hand, wasn't rage's fire. It was the quiet click of freedom's lock turning, proving some illusions burst not with a bang, but a whisper that sets you sailing free. Looking back, it feels like a dream stitched from warmer threads. Those early years when life wove us close as the quilts his mama passed down. Faded blue and white checks that draped our bed like a benediction soft against the skin. My name's Delilah. Lila to him, to the neighbors who'd wave from driveways cracked with summer heat. And at 32, I'd fallen into a rhythm that felt like the porch swings creak on lazy Sundays, swaying gentle under the oak's dappled shade. Harlan and I met at the county fair. Him manning the corn dog stand with sleeves rolled to elbows, grease smudged faint on his cheek as he flipped skewers sizzling hot over the grill's blue flame. I was 28 then, wandering the midway with cotton candy melting sticky on my fingers, the air thick with funnel cake sweet oil and laughter carrying on the breeze. Try one on the house, he'd said, extending a skewer-wrapped paper crisp, his eyes crinkling deep with a grin that tugged something loose in my chest. 3 months of truck rides with windows down, radio crooning low Motown as his hand found mine over the gearshift, and we were married in the backyard under string lights that twinkled like fireflies caught, ribs slow-smoked on his portable grill, the scent of hickory curling up to mingle with jasmine from the fence line. Our home was a 2-story on Maple Grove, the kind with gingerbread trim peeling faint at the edges and a kitchen where sunlight slanted gold through the gingham curtains, painting the linoleum in patterns that danced with the dust motes stirred by our steps. Harlan worked construction, coming home with the day's dust clinging to his jeans like a second skin. His boots thudding heavy on the mat by the door where I'd leave it swept clean. I'd keep the books for a small accounting firm downtown, surrounded by the soft click of keyboards and the faint rustle of ledgers turning, my days folding neat as the statements I balanced. Evenings were our sanctuary. Him at the table with a beer sweating beads on the wood, foam clinging to his upper lip as he recounted the site's crooked beams wrestled straight. Me stirring the pot on the stove, onions caramelizing slow and butters melt, their sizzle a soft underscore to his stories, the vinegar's sharp tang cutting through garlic's mellow warmth. Tough pour today, concrete fought like a mule, he'd rumble, voice low over the steam rising between us, his hand brushing my arm casual as he reached for the salt, fingers lingering just a beat to trace the inside of my wrist. Family threaded us deeper. Harlan's folks hosting Sundays where the table groaned under fried chicken crisp-skinned and collards simmered low with smoked turkey. The air rich with cornbread's cornmeal crunch and laughter that bounced off the floral wallpaper. We'd pile into his truck, windows cracked to the breeze carrying wild honeysuckle from roadside ditches. His fingers laced loose with mine as we sang off-key to the radio's twang. His mama, Big Mama, with her arms round as barrels and hugs that smelled of cocoa butter and fresh laundered sheets, would pull me into the kitchen, apron tying tight over her house dress as she pressed a spoon into my hand. Stir these greens, Lila. Gotta get that lovin' right. Harlan fit there easy, trading barbs with his brothers over pie slices flaky-edged with peach warm and juicy, his laugh booming to shake the rafters while I'd sit back, plate balanced on my lap, the fork's tine-piercing crust that flaked buttery, feeling the weave of it all, us unbreakable as the oak shading the yard where kids once swung high. Mornings held our quiet grace. The alarm's buzz pulling us from tangled sheets where his arm draped heavy over my waist, breath even against my neck in sleep's deep pull. I'd slip out first, the floorboards cool under bare feet as I padded to the kitchen, the percolator's gurgle filling the hush, coffee blooming dark and bold in the pot's glass belly. He'd shuffle in minutes later, hair tousled wild and eyes squinting against the light, scratching stubble with a yawn that rumbled low like distant thunder. Morning beautiful, he'd murmur, stealing a kiss that tasted of sleep and promise, his hands warm on my hips as I poured his mug, steam curling up to fog his glasses perched on the counter. We'd linger then, toast popping golden from the slots, butter melting pools on the crust as he slathered jam thick. The knife scrape a familiar rasp over bites that crunched crisp. Big frame job today, might run late, he'd say, crumbs scattering faint on his shirt, and I'd nod, smoothing his collar with fingers that lingered soft, the fabric warm from his skin. Text if you need anything. Love you. The words came easy, a ritual as sure as the swings creak at dusk, where we'd settle with feet dangling, the chains link sighing under our weight, fireflies winking like secrets shared in the gathering dark. Weekends unspooled lazy, the truck rumbling to the lake where we'd pack a cooler with sandwiches limp from the heat and beers chilled to frost. The water's lap gentle against the dock as we cast lines lazy into the blue. Harlan would lean back, pole propped casual between his knees, the bobber dancing faint on ripples that spread silver in the sun. Think we'll catch supper? He'd tease, voice low over the breeze that tugged at my hair. His hand finding mine to lace fingers rough with callus against my palm smooth from ledgers. I'd laugh, the sound bubbling light, reeling in slow with a tug that splashed cool droplets on my arm. If not, it's bologna melts, your specialty. His grin crinkled deep, pulling me close for a kiss that tasted of lake mist and promise. The docks would warm under us as the sun dipped low, painting the water gold and the sky bruise purple. It was in those folds of ordinary child, the creak of the swing at homecoming, the sizzle of burgers on the grill where smoke curled lazy into twilight, that love rooted deep, invisible as the oak spread, holding steady against the world's quiet tugs. Little did I know, some tugs come from within, pulling slow until the roots give way. The first whisper of fray came subtle, like a thread snagged on the swing's chain. Nothing to halt the sway at first, but enough to catch if you listen close. It was early fall then, the air crisp with leaves turning amber and the promise of cooler nights. The lake's water running higher from autumn rains that left the dock slick underfoot. Harlan's shift stretched a touch longer those weeks, texts pinging my phone mid-afternoon with running behind. Grab takeout, the words casual but the timing off, his truck's rumble absent from the drive by 7. I'd set the table anyway, plates waiting with greens wilted tender and vinaigrette's tang, the fork's placement precise as habit, the clock's hands creeping past 8 in the kitchen's hush where the fridge hummed lonely. He'd roll in eventually, jacket slung over arm with faint creases at the elbows, his kiss landing quick on my cheek, warm but hurried, the scent of diesel clinging stronger than usual, mingled with something sharper like fast food soy from the corner spot downtown. Sorry Lila, client dragged on, he'd say, dropping into the chair with a sigh that carried the day's weight, his fork spearing a forkful without meeting my eyes full. I let it slide at first, chalking to the site's demands, the new condo build pulling overtime like a tide, his boots caked thicker with clay that flaked on the mat by the door. But the absences wove in, subtle as the threadbare spot on the rug from his pacing during calls, now worn wider. Evenings sharpened too. His phone buzzing more on the nightstand, screen lighting the dark with quick flashes he'd silence with a thumb swipe, murmuring boss, go back to sleep when I'd stir the sheets cool between us. I'd nod in the pillow's dim, eyes tracing the ceiling's plaster swirls that seemed to shift in moonlight, the lake's distant lap a lullaby laced with unease. Just work, inner whisper soothed, turning over slow, his back a wall of warmth I pressed against, breath sinking uneven to his. But mornings amplified it, the razor left fogged longer in the bathroom, droplets beating on the mirror like unshed questions. His coffee mug rinsed hasty, ground swirling faint in the sink's drain as I scrubbed, the sponges rasp a small rebellion against the quiet building. A strange event nudged it forward one humid Tuesday. The air thick as soup outside, the office's AC wheezing cool against the window's heat shimmer. I'd forgotten my laptop charger at home, doubling back mid-morning through rain-slick streets, the umbrella's drip pooling at my feet as I shook it out in the lobby's hush. The floor lay quiet, most out for early lunches, but Harlan's truck sat in the lot, parked crooked at the curb 2 spots down, windows fogged faint like breath held too long. Curiosity tugged, or perhaps that snag in the rhythm sharpening, and I approached quiet, gravel crunching soft under my sneakers, the bag's plastic handles cutting faint into my palms. The passenger window gleamed dim through the mist, but movement flickered inside. A shadow shifting, her head leaning close to his, curls spilling dark over his shoulder as lips met in a press that lingered unhurried, the cab's confines turning intimate as a confessional. Time stretched thin, the rain's distant rumble a heartbeat in my ears, my breath fogging the glass as I pressed nearer, the bag slipping forgotten to the wet pavement with a soft thud. Not him. Not her. But it was, Harlan, my Harlan, hands cupping her face with a tenderness I'd thought ours alone, her sigh muffled against his mouth. Shock rooted me there, cold and absolute, the world narrowing to that steamed pain. Her fingers threading his hair, his murmur lost in the kiss, the truck's cab a cocoon of stolen breath. Disbelief crashed next, hot and choking, tears pricking sharp as I backed away silent, the gravel biting through my soles, the bag's contents spilling. Milk carton splitting white on the curb like spilled trust. I made it home before the sob clawed free. Key turning frantic in the lock. The door slamming shut behind me with a bang that echoed hollow in the empty hall. The kitchen waited unchanged, plates still set from breakfast with toast crumbs scattered faint. But I sank to the floor there, back against the cabinet's cool wood. Knees drawn tight as the tears came, raw, shuddering, the linoleum hard under me like judgment's seat. How long? Why her? Questions battered, but beneath pulsed a deeper wound. Not just the act, but the fracture of us. The life we'd stitched now unraveling thread by thread. The lake lapped distant outside, steady as ever. But inside, the current pulled fierce, carrying me toward shores I couldn't yet see. That sob on the kitchen floor ebbed slow, leaving me hollowed out and gasping. The linoleum's chill seeping through my skirt like regret's slow creep. The cabinets would unyielding against my back as tears traced salt paths down my cheeks to pool warm in the hollow of my throat. The apartment hung vast around me. The fridges hum a indifferent drone that mocked the chaos churning inner. Harlan with her in our truck like it was nothing. Questions battered relentless. How many late sights? How many kisses stolen in cabs fogged with breath? But beneath the hurt pulsed a colder thread. Suspicion's first whisper, faint as the draft sneaking under the door, urging me to look closer, to pull the threads loose before they unraveled me whole. I rose eventual, knees protesting faint with the night's toll, wiping my face on the hem of my blouse, damp, crumpled now, and moved to the sink, water running hot over knuckles that trembled still, suds bubbling white as the blank I'd drawn over it all. Tomorrow, inner resolve murmured, the faucet's twist shutting off sharp. Face it then. Not in dark. Sleep came fractured after, the bed sheets twisting cool around my legs like unanswered whys, dreams tangling with the truck's cab, her curls spilling dark, his hands cupping sure. The rain's patter outside a relentless underscore to sighs that weren't mine. Dawn pulled me up unrest. The curtains gap spilling gray light that slanted cold across the floor. The percolators drip a solitary ritual in the kitchen's hush where the mugs waited mismatched on the shelf. One his chipped at the rim from a hurried morning years back, the other mine smooth and waiting empty. Coffee bloomed dark and bitter in the pot's glass. Steam curling up to fog the window where the lake gleamed indifferent below. Its surface rippling faint under the breeze that tugged at the willow's branches. I poured slow, the ceramic warm in my palms, sipping standing at the counter with eyes tracing the scar on the table's wood, where he'd carved our initials lazy 1 anniversary. Knife's tip etching shallow L and H intertwined. Steady, the word anchored me, but the draft gusted stronger now, suspicion's pull turning insistent as the current I felt in my toes. The day dragged measured at the office. The firm's glass walls framing a skyline that shimmered false in the autumn haze. Keyboards clicking constant around me like a veil over the churn inside. I buried in spreadsheets, numbers marching neat in columns that blurred under the screen's glow. The mouse's pad worn soft from my palm's press. But focus frayed at edges, Harlan's text pinging mid-morning lunch run, back by 2, casual as always, but the timing tugged, aligning with her lunch hour I'd noted once in passing. Her desk across the bullpen where files stacked high and her laugh carried light over the partition. I nodded to the empty air, thumb swiping the message away. But the draft whispered louder, check. Lunch came alone, the break room's microwave beeping shrill as I heated leftovers limp with yesterday's rice. The scent of soy faint and cloying on my tongue as I chewed mechanical, eyes drifting to the window where his truck sat in the lot empty, or so it seemed from this angle. Paranoia, inner chide soothed. Fork scraping the container's plastic edge, but the pull tugged insistent, urging toward the lot's bend where shadows pooled under oaks shedding leaves red as warnings. Suspicion built in layers after, small thefts of certainty that piled like the leaves crunching underfoot on my walk home, the air crisp with their rot and the lake's damp breath. Harlan's run stretched longer those weeks. Texts arriving later with traffic, dinner out? The words clipped, his truck's rumble absent from the drive by 7. Leaving the kitchen to the clock's tick and the pot's slow simmer where onions wept silent and butters melt. I'd eat alone at the table, forks tine-piercing chicken seared crisp but cooling fast, the wine's pour glugging red into a glass that stemmed long and lonely, its swirl catching light that danced mocking on the wall. His return came eventual, jacket slung over arm with creases deeper at the elbows, His kiss landing quick on my temple, warm but distant, the scent of diesel sharper now, laced with something floral, like the hand lotion she kept on her desk, visible from the hall. Rough one, client changed specs last minute, he'd say, dropping into the chair with a sigh that carried more than fatigue. His hand reaching for the salt but pausing mid-air. Eyes flicking to his phone buzzing faint on the counter. I'd nod over my plate, the greens vinegar tang sharp on my tongue, stirring slow to buy time. The spoon scrape a rasp against the quiet. Sound frustrating. She helping with the revisions? The question landed light, casual as the steam rising between us, but his fork paused, tines hovering over rice sticky and untouched. Eyes meeting mine a beat too long before dropping. Nina? Yeah, she's on it, good head for details. Nina. Her name woven more, dropped casual as crumbs on his shirt, but the draft gusted colder, suspicion's wings unfurling slow. Her desk visits to his office lingering past quick checks. Laughter spilling low through the door's crack when I'd pass with files under arm. The way his phone angled away during dinners, screen's glow lighting his face in quick flashes he'd silence with a thumb swipe, murmuring work, go back to sleep. When I'd stir in the dark, the sheets cool between us like a gulf. Widening. Just team stuff, inner whisper tried, turning over in the pillows dim, but mornings betrayed it. The razor left with more stubble in the sink's drain. Droplets beating on the mirror like secrets unshed. His coffee mug rinsed hasty, ground swirling faint as I scrubbed, the sponge's rasp echoing the unease coiling tight. A second strange event tipped the balance one overcast Wednesday. The sky heavy with clouds that pressed low and gray. The office's AC wheezing cool against the window's chill shimmer. I'd stepped out for air mid-afternoon. The lobby's ficus dropping petals faint on the tile as I pushed through the doors to the lot, rain threatening in the air's metallic bite. Harlan's truck sat crooked 2 rows over, windows fogged just enough to blur the interior, but movement flickered. A shadow leaning close, her head tilting into his, curls catching the dash light's glow as lips met in a press that lingered unhurried, the cab's confines turning intimate as a stolen breath. Time stretched thin, the lot's asphalt slick under my heels as I froze mid-step, the world narrowing to that steamed pain. Her fingers threading his hair, his hand cupping her neck with a tenderness that twisted sharp in my gut. The rain's first drops pattering cold on my skin like accusation's touch. Again. The word landed heavy, shock's cold root deepening to fury's ember. Tears pricking hot as I backed away silent. The doors whooshing open to swallow me back into the hum. Heart slamming against ribs like a door rattled in storm. Disbelief warred with the ache blooming full then. A hollow that stole breath as I sank into my chair. The desk's edge digging into my palms. Numbers on the screen blurring to smears under eyes that stung. How long this time? Why her again? Inner questions battered, but the draft had become gale now, suspicion's pull turning to certainty's tug, urging me to dig, to pull the threads until the weave gave way. Evening came heavy, the drive home a blur of wipers swiping arcs across the windshield, city lights streaking red and gold like warnings ignored, the apartment waiting dark when I arrived, key turning soft in the lock that felt like a barrier half drawn. Harlan rolled in later, jacket slung with creases fresh, his kiss landing quick, too quick on my cheek, the scent of her lotion faint but there, floral as betrayals bloom. Long one, Nina nailed the specs though. He'd say over the takeout we'd ordered, cartons steaming soy and rice on the table, his fork spearing noodles limp as the words between us. I nodded mechanical, the plastic forks bend under my grip, stirring slow to mask the churn. Specs or something more? The fray deepened those weeks. Dinners cooling untouched on plates that clattered cold between silences stretching longer. The wines pour glugging red into glasses stemmed tall but empty of talk. His phone buzzed more insistent on the nightstand, screen's glow seeping under the door when he'd step out for calls. Voice low and edged in the hall's dim where shadows pooled like secrets kept. I'd lie wakeful, the bed's vastness a mirror to the gulf, sheets cool against my skin as the clock's red digits marched 1:47, 2:19. The lake's lap outside a lullaby laced with doubt's undertow. Mornings betrayed further. The bathroom's mirror fogged uneven, droplets beating like tears unshed. His tie looser at the collar when he dressed, a button undone revealing skin flushed not from shave's nick alone. Suspicion had roots now, digging insistent through the soil of trust, petals dark as the clouds gathering over the lake, threatening storm I couldn't outrun. The tipping point came unannounced. A Friday in deepening autumn when leaves scratched against the windows like impatient fingers. The office abuzz with weekend fever, and the printer's endless whine. I'd lingered late, spreadsheets glowing insistent on my screen. The vending machines hum a lonely companion as the floor emptied. coats rustling like leaves in wind. Footsteps echoed then, light, hesitant. Nina rounding the corner with a stack of binders, her curls pinned back neat, blouse untucked faint at the hem as if from haste. "Lila? Thought you left," Harlan said to lock up. Her words tumbled quick, eyes flicking to his office door ajar at the hall's end, a wedge of dark spilling out like invitation unspoken. I glanced up, the desk lamp casting my shadow long across the carpet, and caught it. A flush high on her cheeks, not from cold but something warmer, her fingers twisting the stack's edge white-knuckled. "Still grinding? You heading out?" She nodded too fast, shifting weight from one foot to the other, the binders creaking faint in her arms. "Yeah, just grabbing one last thing." Her voice pitched higher, and she darted toward the door, the knob turning with a click that hung in the air. Curiosity, or the gale's full gust, tugged me up, chair rolling back with a whisper on the low pile rug, the hall stretching dim under fluorescence that buzzed overhead like distant warning. At the threshold I paused, hand light on the jamb, the air inside cooler, scented with paper reams and that floral whiff again. Her lotion sharp as the hook sinking deep. Voices murmured low. His rumble, Harlan's timbre, her lilt overlapping in a cadence too intimate for memos. "Can't keep doing this," he was saying, words muffled but edged, the door easing shut behind her with a click that masked my approach. The gap widened faint under my palms' pressure, spilling light on them. Him straightening from a lean against the desk, tie askew, her backing against shelves lined with files, a folder half tucked under her arm, cheeks blooming redder now. Time stretched thin, the vending machine's distant hum a heartbeat in my ears, their eyes meeting mine. His widening in freeze-frame surprise, hers dropping to the floor with a sharp intake. "Lila," he said, voice even but laced, stepping forward to fill the space, his hand gesturing vague at the folder. "Just helping Nina with stock. Slipped off the high shelf." She nodded fervent, clutching the paper tighter, its edges denting under her grip. "Yeah, total klutz moment. Night, Lila, drive safe." I held the door steady, would cool under my palm, nodding slow as the moment congealed awkward, the air thick with unspoken static. "Night then. Don't forget the lights, storm's coming." My words came light, a smile tugged mechanical to my lips, but inside the gale howled full, too close, too easy, and she murmured assent, slipping past with a brush of her arm against his in the narrow hall, the door swinging shut behind them with a sigh that masked my retreat. Alone in the office's hush, the printer's whine resuming distant, I lingered at my desk, the screen's cursor blinking indifferent as suspicion rooted deep, branches spreading dark through the night. I drove home, wipers swiping arcs across the windshield where rain blurred the world's edges to smears. That office encounter clung like the faint floral whiff on Harlan's shirt when he shrugged it off that night, the fabric whispering soft against the closet rod as I hung it deliberate, fingers lingering on the collar where the crease ran deep from a lean too long against a desk. The apartment settled into its hush after, the fridge's hum a steady drone that couldn't drown the churn inside. "Just helping" slipped shelf, the words replaying tinny as Nina's laugh through the door's crack, her flesh blooming not from klutz but something warmer, unspoken. I stood there in the dim hall, light spilling faint from the bedroom where the bed waited vast and rumpled, the lake's lap outside a lullaby laced now with doubt's undertow, pulling insistent at the edges of trust I'd thought woven tight. Team stuff, inner whisper tried one last time, but the draft had become a steady wind, suspicion's branches spreading dark through the quiet, leaves rustling with questions I couldn't shake. How many helps? How many shelves slipped in shadows? Sleep evaded full, the sheets twisting cool around my legs as I turned over slow, his snores rumbling even from the other side. The clock's red digits marching 2:14, 3:07, the ceiling's plaster swirl shifting like accusations in moonlight's pallor. Mornings betrayed it further those weeks, the routine fracturing at seams I'd overlooked before. The razor left with stubble thicker in the sink's drain, droplets beating on the mirror like secrets unshed, wiped hasty with a towel that smeared rather than cleared. Harlan's tie hung looser at breakfast, a button undone at the collar revealing skin flushed not from the stove's heat alone. His coffee mug rinsed with grounds swirling faint as I scrubbed, the sponge's rasp echoing the unease coiling tighter in my chest. "Big pitch today, Nina's on visuals," he'd say over toast crunching crisp under his bite, crumbs scattering on the plate like careless words, his eyes flicking to his phone buzzing faint on the counter, thumbs swiping quick to silence it. I'd nod mechanical, stirring my oatmeal slow, the oats blooming thick with a pat of butter melting golden, but the spoon's turn felt labored, the sweetness cloying on my tongue as her name wove in more. Casual as the jam he slathered thick, but insistent as the river's current tugging at the dock. Suspicion took root deeper, fed by fragments that surfaced unbidden like leaves caught in the lake's eddy. His lunch runs aligning too neat with her breaks, texts pinging my phone mid-afternoon with client drag. Home late, the words clipped, his truck's rumble absent from the drive by 6, leaving the kitchen to the clock's tick and the pot's slow simmer where onions caramelized but cooled untouched. I'd eat alone at the table, forks tine-piercing chicken seared crisp but now solitary, the wine's pour glugging red into a glass stem tall, its swirl catching light that danced mocking on the wall where our photo hung crooked, smiles frozen in a frame gathering dust. His return came eventual, jacket slung with creases fresh at the elbows, his kiss landing quick, too quick, on my temple, the scent of diesel sharper now, laced with that floral again, like the lotion she dabbed absent on her wrist during meetings, visible from my desk across the bullpen. Rough one, saved it with a last-minute tweak, he'd say, dropping into the chair with a sigh that carried more than fatigue, his hand reaching for the salt but pausing, eyes dropping to his plate as if avoiding mine that I'd let it slide at first or try, the draft gusting but not gale yet. Stress from the build, nothing more, stirring the greens with a nod over the steam's curl, vinegar's tang sharp enough to cut the quiet. But nights amplified it, his phone angled away on the nightstand more. Screen's glow seeping under the door when he'd step out for calls. Voice low and edged in the hall's dim where shadows pooled like doubts unspoken. I'd lie wakeful, the bed's vastness a mirror to the gulf widening between us. Sheets cool against my skin as the lake's lap outside turned restless under moon that silvered the pane. Paranoia, Lila. Reading wind where there's none, inner chide soothed. But the branches spread insistent, petals dark as the clouds gathering over the water. Threatening storm I felt in my bones. Mornings brought no ease, the bathroom's mirror fogged uneven, as if 2 breaths had clouded it hasty. His shave creams mint lingering longer, the cap left loose on the counter like carelessness creeping in. The event that tipped it full came unannounced. A Thursday in the deepening chill of November when leaves scratched against the windows like fingers impatient. The office abuzz with holiday fever, and the printer's whine turning frantic. I'd stepped out for air mid-afternoon. The lobby's ficus dropping petals faint on the tile as I pushed through to the lot, rain threatening in the air's metallic bite that nipped at my coat's hem. Harlan's truck sat crooked 2 rows over, windows fogged just enough to blur but not hide the movement, a shadow leaning close, her head tilting into his with curls catching the dash light's glow, lips meeting in a press that lingered unhurried, hands cupping shore in the cab's confines. Time stretched thin, the lot's asphalt slick under my heels as I froze mid-step, the world narrowing to that steamed pain. Her fingers threading his hair, his murmur lost in the kiss, the rain's first drops pattering cold on my skin like the chill settling deep. Her. Again. Shock's root dug colder, the draft howling full now, months not moments, the tweaks and runs weaving a tapestry I'd ignored. Threads pulling taut until the weave gave way. Disbelief crashed next, hot and choking. Tears pricking sharp as I backed away silent. The doors whooshing open to swallow me back into the hum. Heart slamming against ribs like a door rattled in gale. The bullpen waited unchanged, keyboards clicking constant around me, but I sank into my chair, the desk's edge digging into my palms, numbers on the screen blurring to smears under eyes that stung with the truth's bite. How long this time? Why her? The girl from accounting with her quick laugh and files always neat. Inner questions battered, but the gale had become storm now, suspicion's branches lashing full, urging me to dig, to follow the threads to their source before they unraveled me whole. Evening came heavy, the drive home a blur of wipers swiping arcs across the windshield where rain blurred the skyline to gray, the apartment waiting dark when I arrived, key turning soft in the lock that felt like a barrier half drawn. Harlan rolled in later, jacket slung with creases fresh, his kiss landing quick, too quick on my cheek, the floral faint but there, sharp as the hook sinking deep. Long one, saved it with a last-minute tweak, he'd say over the takeout carton, steaming soy and rice on the table, his fork spearing noodles limp as the words between us. I nodded mechanical, the plastic forks bend under my grip, stirring slow to mask the churn. Tweak or touch? The fray deepened those weeks, dinners cooling untouched on plates that clattered cold between silences stretching longer, the wine's pour glugging red into glasses stemmed tall but empty of talk that once flowed easy. His phone buzzed more insistent on the nightstand, Screen's glow seeping under the door when he'd step out for calls. Voice low and edged in the hall's dim where shadows pooled like doubts unspoken. I'd lie wakeful, the bed's vastness a mirror to the gulf. Sheets cool against my skin as the lake's lap outside turned restless under moon that silvered the pane. Team stuff, inner whisper tried one last time. But the storm broke full then. Branches lashing with the truth I couldn't ignore anymore. Urging toward the scroll that would crack it wide. The storm broke quiet that night. Not with thunder's crash but a steady rain that pattered insistent against the apartment's pane. Blurring the lake's gleam to silver smear as I lay wakeful in the bed's vastness. Sheets cool and starched against my skin like a barrier drawn tight. Harlan's snores rumbled even from the other side. His form a shadow in the dim where moonlight slanted thin through the curtain's gap. But sleep evaded me full. The clock's red digits marching 1:52, 2:38. Each tick a nudge toward the glow of my phone on the nightstand. Screen dark but calling, its silence louder than the downpour outside. Dig, the gale urged inner, suspicion's branches lashing full now. Petals dark and insistent as the current pulling at the dock's pilings. I slipped from the cover silent. Feet padding cool on the floorboards that creaked faint under my weight. The hallway's hush broken only by the fridge's hum and the distant lap of water against shore. The living room waited dim. Lamp switched low to a golden pool on the side table where the remote lay forgotten. Its buttons worn smooth from evenings we'd once shared tangled in each other. I settled on the couch's arm, the fabrics weave rough under my palms as I pulled the phone close. Thumb swiping the screen to life with a glow that lit my face blue and unforgiving. Harlan's socials first, innocuous at the surface, posts of job sites framed proud under hard hats gleaming, comments from crew with thumbs-up emojis and boss man tags, but deeper in tagged photos from last month's barbecue. There she was, Vanessa from marketing, her laugh captured mid-bloom with curls spilling dark over a sundress that hugged curves I'd noticed once in passing. Her arm looped casual through his, both flushed from sun or something warmer. The caption read team vibes, closing strong, hearts flooding below. But the date tugged mid-July when he'd begged off our anniversary dinner with site emergency babe rain check. Inner churn twisted sharper, the phone's heat seeping into my palm as I scrolled further, her profile blooming open with a tap that felt like trespass. Posts of brunches steaming mimosas fizzy and flutes, stories tagged blessed with filters softening the glow around a bump that swelled round under loose tops. Hands cradling it soft as a vow unspoken. Curiosity, or the storm's full fury, pulled me deeper, thumb swiping through months of feeds where the swell grew gradual. Vanessa's smiles widening radiant in mirror selfies time-stamped to afternoons he'd texted lunch meeting. Home late, the apartment's quiet then filled with my solitary plates cooling untouched. Wine glugged red into glasses stemmed tall but empty of his laugh. But something snagged. A video from 2 weeks back, her in a sundress loose at the waist, turning side profile to the camera with a wink and bump watch. Week 20. Who's guessing? The curve looked off, too perfect, the fabric draping just so over what seemed padded, not flesh. Doubt's gale held louder, inner whisper turning to shout, staged? And I paused the clip, zooming in pixel by insistent pixel. The screen's glow sharpening the fold where cotton bunched unnatural. A shadow that whispered pillow propped, not life blooming. Heart slammed once, twice, the phone trembling faint in my grip as I backed out, searching her tags frantic now, baby bump journey, photos spilling. One from a beach trip he'd missed for work, her in a bikini top with the swell peeking round, but the angle caught a seam, faint as a seamstress's secret. Another mirror shot in what looked his old flannel, the bump's edge too straight, propped on a curve that didn't breathe. Disbelief warred with the ache blooming full then. A hollow that stole breath as tears pricked hot, blurring the screen to smears where her glow mocked my unraveling. Pregnancy a plan? The apartment's hush amplified it. The rain's patter outside a relentless underscore to the sob clawing up, muffled into the couch's cushion as I curled tight. The fabrics weave rough against my cheek. Months, Harlan, for this? A pillow and a ploy? Questions battered, but beneath pulsed fury tempered slow. Not wild blaze, but a forge's steady heat. Resolve hardening like steel in the gale. Confront or cut? Inner pull ward, the phone's weight heavy in my lap as I straightened gradual. Wiping my face on the hem of my nightgown damp, clinging now and open the screenshots app. Fingers flying to capture each damning frame. The seams tell, the dates align, her stories tagged blessed with filters that couldn't hide the flat beneath. Evidence mounted neat. A folder named innocuous. Recipes. On the cloud drive we still shared. The upload's progress bar crawling green like a fuse lit slow. Dialogue brewed inner as the rain eased to drip outside. The clock marking 3:41, Harlan snores undisturbed from the bedroom where the door stood ajar like trust half left. Tell him now in the dark, watch his face crack? No, that fed the wound, kept me tethered to their tangle. Better. Let the blessing swell a spell, gather the threads loose enough to unravel all, then send them sailing to the family chat where eyes would see what his blinded. The plan took shape quiet, not vengeful but even. Accept the fate public, act private. Let truth deflate the lie. By dawn's creep, the screenshots tucked safe, I'd slipped back to bed, the sheets cool against fevered skin. His arm draping heavy in sleep as if nothing shifted, but inside, the current pulled fierce toward action's shore. Morning came with the percolator's drip, coffee blooming dark as I poured his mug mechanical, the ceramic warm in my palms over breakfast where toast crunched crisp under his bite, crumbs scattering faint on the plate. Big announcement soon, Vanessa's got news, he'd say casual, eyes crinkling over the steam's curl, oblivious to the hook sinking deep in me. I nodded, stirring my oatmeal slow, the oats bloom thick with butter's melt. Words light as the spoons turn. Exciting. Spill when you can. The irony hung unspoken, his laugh rumbling easy, but I'd caught the flicker, pride's glow or guilt's shadow. Before he kissed my temple quick, jacket slung over arm as he headed out, the door's click final as a vow broken quiet. Action wove deliberate after, the day's a careful dance of normalcy laced with purpose. Smiles traded at dinners where I'd plate salmon seared crisp, skin crackling under the fork as he raved about the team's win, oblivious to my probes gentle as the wines pour. Vanessa's glowing, says it's the project's high. He'd murmur over bites, the glass's stem cool in his grip, red swirling dark. I'd nod, twirling my own slow, the liquid's legs trailing faint on the bowl. Sounds special. When's the reveal? His pause came brief, fork hovering midair with a drip of sauce that plinked soft. Soon family dinner maybe. You'll love it. Love it. The words landed bitter as the rain tapping renewed outside, but I smiled through the plan's threads tightening inner. More screenshots from her feeds, timestamps aligning their overtimes, to hotel bookings I'd traced quiet on the shared account. The laptop's fan whirring hot under my palms late nights when the apartment slept. Evidence mounted. A folder swelling with pixels that couldn't lie. The bump's unnatural curve in side shots. Pillows glimpsed in laundry tags from his old flannel. Messages recovered from deleted threads, her words breathy digital. Can't wait to announce. Your ring on my finger soon? His replies clipped but fervent. Patience, love, Lila's buying it. The leak brewed anonymous, the family chat a ghost group I'd lurked silent since the fade. His mama's birthday posts fading to crickets. Aunt's recipes shared without reply. I drafted the message measured, screenshots attached neat as evidence laid bare. Thought y'all should see this before the joy. No accusations flung wild, just facts and pixels that spoke louder than shouts. The send button hovering under my thumb in the living room's dim where the lamp cast golden pools on the rug. Rain's patter a soft accomplice outside. Inner resolve steadied me. Not cruelty but clarity. Let them deflate the balloon. The whoosh swallowed it at 10:47. The phone set face down on the table with a clack that hung final. Sleep coming easier after. The bed sheets wrapping cool as the current carried me toward dawn's shore. The morning after the leak dawned sharp and unyielding. Sunlight slanting through the curtain's gap to stripe the bedroom floor in gold bars that felt accusatory. The lake's lap outside steady but mocking in its calm as I stirred from a sleep shallow as the sheets twisted cool around my legs. Harlan's side of the bed lay empty, the pillow dented faint where his head had rested. His side of the closet half barren now with hangers swaying light in the draft from the cracked window. The apartment hung hushed, the percolators drip a solitary echo in the kitchenette where I'd left the phone face down on the counter overnight. Its screen dark but humming with the weight of what I'd unleashed. Truth's quiet whoosh at 10:47, swallowed into the family chat's silence like a stone dropped in still water. I poured coffee slow, the pot's glass blooming dark and bitter. Mug cradled warm in both hands as steam curled up to fog the small mirror above the sink. My reflection blurred to a ghost of the woman who'd hit send. Consequences now, inner murmur steadied me. The bitterness grounding on my tongue as I sipped standing there. The floorboards creaking faint under my shift. the river's bend gleaming silver below like a promise of ripples spreading wide. The first wave hit mid-morning, the phone buzzing insistent on the counter where oatmeal cooled untouched in a bowl, oats blooming thick but cloying now on my palate. Lila's name lit the screen, her call crackling urgent over the line's hum. The market's distant chatter underscoring like a worried chorus. Lila? You see the chat? Harlan's mama called me frantic. Those screenshots. Oh honey, Vanessa's bump? A pillow? The family's blowing up. Her words tumbled fast, breathy with shock and something softer. Solidarity perhaps. As I sank into the chair, its weave imprinting my palms, the spoon's handle cool against my fingers. Sent it last night. Couldn't let the lie swell bigger. Pause hung thick, her exhale ragged. Mama's heartbroken. Thinks it's a scam for his money, the ring talk in those messages. Harlan's not answering. Vanessa's posts vanished like smoke. Smoke. The word landed light but searing, the chat's notifications piling now. Pings from aunts with exclamation emojis and what is this? Cousin's voice notes crackling tearful. Lila call. Can't believe he'd. With her? The air thickened, the apartment's quiet fracturing to the phone's insistent glow. Truth rippling outward like the lake's waves under wind. Touching shores I'd long left quiet. Public consequence unfolded not in spectacle's roar but a steady current that tugged at threads woven tight for years. The family chat swelling to a torrent by noon. Messages stacking frantic, Harlan's mama's texts in all caps. Need to talk, this can't be true. I let them flow unanswered at first, the screen's heat seeping into my palm as I paced the narrow hall, floor creaking soft under socked feet, the river's lap a distant underscore to the storm brewing digital. Vanessa's feed went dark mid-afternoon. Profile scrubbed to private with a bio that read simply taking time. Her stories vanishing like mist burned off by sun. The bump posts deleted in a sweep that left ghosts of comments hanging orphaned. Harlan's silence stretched longest, his number going to voicemail twice. Hey, it's me, call when you can. My voice even over the line's beep, but the third time he picked up ragged, the background noise of traffic roaring faint like escape attempted. Lila. God, the chat, how? I can explain it's not. His words tumbled desperate, breath hitching sharp, the engine's hum underscoring his plea. Explain? The pillows, Harlan, the timestamps to your runs? Family sees it now. My tone held steady, the window's pane cool under my free palm as I leaned there. Rain threatening gray in the sky beyond. Vanessa's gone quiet, good. But you face it. No more props. The fallout crested that evening, kin converging in calls that lit the phone like fireflies frantic in dusk. His brother Derek's voice gravelly over the line from his garage, tools clanking faint in the background as he exhaled long. Saw the pics, sis. Harlan's a fool, but that scam? Mama's packing to drive over. Ants are praying circles already. His laugh came short, bark without mirth, but laced with the solidarity of blood thinned by betrayal. You okay? Need backup? I murmured thanks, the soup reheated bubbling gentle on the stove. Onions weep steaming up as I stirred slow. The wooden spoons rasp a small anchor. Holding. Let it settle, truth's doing the work. Aunties followed in waves, their voices overlapping tearful on group calls that crackled with static. Lila child, that girl's a snake, pillows for a ring? Harlan's pride blinded him, but you're free now. Their concern wrapped thick as the greens wilting in the pot. Pity faint but present in the pauses. The clink of teacups underscoring murmurs of prayers for you, honey. Dignity held me through it, not crumbling under the weight but standing firm. Not victim but voice. The chat storm a cleansing rain that washed illusions clean, leaving the family to their ripples while I stood at the eye, steady as the river's bend. Harlan arrived unannounced by dusk, the doors not coming sharp, 3 raps hesitant but insistent. The chain rattling as I peered through the peephole to his face drawn and damp from the mist gathering outside. Eyes shadowed deep under the hall's fluorescent buzz. I unlatched slow, the door swinging open to admit him with a creak that hung heavy. His jacket slung over arm dripping faint on the mat, the scent of rain and regret clinging close. Lila. Please just hear me. His voice cracked on the last, hands shoved deep in pockets, shoulders hunched against more than chill as he stepped in. The apartment's warmth turning stifling with his presence. We stood in the hall's dim, the kitchen's light spilling gold at our feet like a line drawn. his eyes searching mine with a plea that twisted something deep, hurt or habit. The chat, how'd you? It wasn't like that, the bump. Vanessa said it was temporary to make it real for us. I ended it weeks ago, swear. Words tumbled desperate, his hand raking through hair gone grayer at the temples, the motion familiar as breath but laced now with desperation's edge. I held the door half open, would cool under my palm, nodding slow as the rain pattered renewed outside. The threshold a boundary I wouldn't cross back. Temporary? Like the runs that aligned with her lunch hours, Harlan? Or the ring text to your family? Our future? My voice stayed even, no lash but a mirror held steady. Tears pricking hot but blinked back as his face crumpled. Shoulders slumping against the wall with a thud that echoed hollow. God, when you say it. I was lost. Lila, work grinding us fraying. She made me feel seen. Stupid, I know, ended it, but the lie snowballed. His sob came ragged then, muffled into his hands, the jacket slipping to pool at his feet like shed skin. Vulnerability raw as the streets he'd never touched but mirrored now in his fall. The family chat buzzed faint from the counter. Notifications piling with where is he? And talk to Lila, the storms I'd tightening around us. Seen? While I waited with plates cooling, Harlan alone. Questions landed soft but sure. The air thick with the soup steam drifting from the kitchen. Onions weep a silent witness. He nodded, tears tracking salt down his cheeks, voice breaking low. I know. Deserved the fallout, mama won't speak, brothers ghosting. Lost the sight lead too, words spread fast. Consequence hung moral in that threshold space, not vengeful lash but exposure's even hand. His pride stripped bare as the chat's flood, kin's concern turning to distance that echoed the gulf between us, Vanessa's silence a ghost in the digital wake. Dignity wrapped it gentle for me, no cruelty's cheer but the quiet equity of truth aired. His job teetering on threads pulled loose, family gatherings he'd once anchored now empty of his chair. The barbecue's grill cold without his tongs, flipping burgers sizzle hot. I stepped back then, the door easing wider but my heart's not, handing him a towel from the hook, damp from the mist but dry enough. Clean up. Eat. Then go, face it without props. He nodded numb, the towel clutched like lifeline as he moved to the kitchen. The spoon's scrape soon joining the rain's patter, soup's warmth bringing color faint to cheeks hollowed by the night's toll. The chat quieted gradual, messages tapering to prayers and call when ready, the storm passing to leave air clearer, if bruised, justice not in ruin, but reckoning that leveled the lie, leaving room for steps forward, mind steady on ground reclaimed. The fallout's ripples settled gradual after that threshold talk, not crashing waves but a current easing to eddy, leaving the lake's surface smooth under winter's first skim of ice that cracked faint under the sun's low slant. Harlan moved out proper by week's end, suitcases thumping down the hall stairs with echoes that hung heavy in the apartment's hush, his final glance from the doorway pleading but resigned, eyes storm gray now cleared of lies, but shadowed with the weight of bridges burned. Take care, Lila, deserve the peace? He'd murmured, voice low over the threshold's creak, the door clicking shut soft behind him like a chapter's end whispered, not slammed. I stood there in the hall's dim, the mat still damp from his boots' print, the air settling cooler without his warmth, but lighter too, like the river after flood, banks reshaped but flow renewed. No rage's blaze lingered, child, just the quiet deflation of truth aired. His ladder of lies buckled under scrutiny's even weight, leaving me to steps unburdened, ground firm underfoot for the first time in months. Healing woven slow, deliberate as the stitches in the scarf I'd started knitting one stormy evening, needles clicking rhythmic in my lap under the lamp's fringed shade that spilled golden pools on the rug, yarn soft wool twisting taupe and cream like threads of a life reknit. The apartment breathed easier now, spaces once heavy with his jacket's hang or the echo of his laugh turning to pockets of mine. Mornings with the percolators drip a solo song, coffee blooming dark in the pot's glass as sunlight slanted gold through the curtains, painting the floorboards in stripes that warmed under my bare feet. I'd linger then, mug cradled in both hands with steam curling up to fog the window where the lake gleamed silver below, sipping slow the bitterness that grounded thoughts drifting to what if softened now by distance. What if the tweaks had been true? But the gale had passed, leaving clarity's calm, the moral settling gentle inner. Lies inflate like pillows propped for show, but truth deflates them to air we breathe free. Therapy resumed in earnest. Dr. Reese's office, a haven of chamomile tea steaming faint on the side table and armchairs worn soft at the arms. Her voice a steady current over the notebook balanced on her knee. Sage bundled on the sill, curling smoke that scented the air clean. "What does freedom feel like now, Delilah, without the prop?" she'd ask, pen pausing mid-scratch. The window behind her framing willows bare but budding faint in spring's tease. I'd lean forward, the chair's weave imprinting my palms, words spilling measured. The betrayal's sting dulled to ache, not wound. The announcement's false glow peeled to reveal my own light. Hard won in ledgers balanced alone in evenings claimed for sketches where charcoal whispered soft on paper. Lines curving free like the lake's bend. Sessions peeled layers. Forgiveness not as tether back to him, but release for me. Boundaries drawn clear as the line I'd towed at the chat's send. Homework came light. Journals filled with gratitude scrawled in the lamplight's glow. Brunch with Lila where mimosas fizzed bright in flutes chilled from the fridge. Her laugh bubbling over quiche flaking buttery. Walks along the shore where stones skipped smooth under my palm. Ripples spreading silver as I whispered free to the water's lap. New beginnings rooted tentative at first. The firm's restructuring offer landing crisp in email one thawing March morning. The walk-up's radiator clanking victory as I read it over oatmeal steaming in a bowl, cinnamon dusting sweet on my tongue. Lead analyst now, with a corner office framing the skyline steel and sparkle. Onboarding swift. ID badge clipped gleaming to my lapel. Desk by a window where sunlight spilled unchecked. Colleagues wove warm. Theo from audits, his grin wide over shared lunches of wraps crisp-edged with falafel. Mira in compliance, her coffee invites turning to afterwork chats. Heels clicking sync on the avenue's bustle as stories traded like heirlooms. Evenings filled fuller. Pottery classes in a studio scented with clay's damp earth. Wheels humming low under palms that shaped vessels from nothing. The instructor's voice calm anchor. Let it rise, then guide. Joy crept back in pockets. Markets on weekends where stalls brimmed apples tart and pumpkins squat. My basket heavy with squash I'd roast golden. Skin blistering faint in the oven's heat. The scent filling the apartment like home reclaimed, solitary but mine. Vanessa faded to whispers in the wind. Her profile scrubbed clean by month's end. A single post resurfacing months later. Lessons learned moving forward. Tagged vague with a beach sunset that glowed orange as false promises burned. Harlan circled once more. A text pinging tentative in April's bloom. Heard about the lead proud. Coffee. No strings. I read it over tea steaming in the mug chipped at the rim. Its warmth seeping into my palms as the river gleamed below. Willows greening full now in the sun's slant. Reply came measured. Thanks, busy climbing. Peace, Harlan. No bridge rebuilt, just the grace of paths diverging kinder. His silence after a quiet close to the chapter we'd scripted in lies. Family folded in gentle. Big Mama's calls coming weekly with her laugh rumbling warm over the line. The clatter of her kitchen faint as pots banged stories. That fool's learning new sight keeping head down. But you, Lila? Blooming like the magnolias out back. Her pride wrapped thick as the cornbread she'd mail in tins that arrived dented but fragrant. The flakes buttery on my tongue over evenings alone but full. The table set now for one with space for more when ready. Spring turned to summer's full leaf. The lake's water warm under toes that dangled from the dock where I'd drive occasional. Sketchpad balanced on my knees with charcoal whispering soft lines of bends and ripples. The sun dipping low to paint the horizon bruise purple and gold. Joy reclaimed felt like that. Not grand return but steady unfurl. The apartment blooming with pots on the sill where ferns stretched green and resilient. Watered careful from a tin cup dented from use. The moral bloomed with them soft as petals opening to light. Lies inflate fragile as pillows propped for show. But truth deflates them to breath we draw free. Proving love's current runs clearest when we navigate by sight. Not shadows cast by others' games. Strength warmed me now. Not in vengeance's ash but growth's quiet green. Roots digging deep where betrayal once scorched soil bare. The river's lap a song of bends endured. Carrying forward to shores wide and waiting. And as the sunsets lengthened gold over the water, child, I found peace not in answers to every why, but in the grace of walking my path unpropped, heart lighter, step surer. The gale long past to leave only the steady flow of what comes next.